Looks like I'm live. Once again, with feeling. Just making sure I'm on, folks. Bear with me a moment. Everything seems to be doing okay. Hello, hey everybody. It's Mike Meyers. I am Mike Meyers, aren't I? January 5th, 2022. Man, that just sounds like a Buck Rogers Star Trek kind of date. Craziness, huh? Anyway, welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Mike Meyers Ask Mike Anything. The goal of this live stream is to provide those of us who are isolated by the coronavirus an opportunity to continue our studies on certification. Now, we concentrate on CompTIA certification, in particular A+, Net+, and Security+. However, we're certainly more than happy to talk about other certifications as well. Anyway, welcome aboard. Today we're going to be talking about routing. We did a preliminary discussion of routing on Monday. And to be honest with you guys, I'm going to be going kind of slow. I've got some ideas on instruction of routing that I'm going to kind of use you guys as guinea pigs. And I think it'll work out really well. I'm hopeful. And, well, we'll just see. If it's an absolute disaster, it's not going to be. It's pretty good, actually. And keep in mind that anything that I do with you guys is usually stuff that ends up in my books and my videos. So there you go. Anyway, a couple of rules here before we get started. Number one, I hope that you have access to a larger screen. In particular, we're going to be looking at some PowerPoints and some configuration screens that almost kind of require a large screen where you can take the YouTube live stream, put it into full screen. You can do it without it. It's not an absolute requirement. Be aware that some of the details we're going to be looking at, even in my presentation, are smaller text. I made them as big as I could, guys, but you know, it's a lot of stuff to learn. Anyway, so keep that in mind. Secondly, also keep in mind that we've got this chat window here on the right-hand side. Mine by default goes to top chat. Do yourself a favor and pull that down and put it to live chat. That way with live chat we can, you get a better sense of, you're taking the algorithm out of it, and you know, I see everything everybody's saying in order. That's also pretty handy. Do keep in mind, guys, we're giving things away today. We will be giving away, we have 2 giveaways today. The first one is going to be our practice question bundle, which will be a combination ebook of your choice, and the practice questions that go with that. So we're going to be giving, wait, I'm lying. That is our discount. Our discount is 50% off our bundles, but I will be giving away today one set of practice questions. These are online, so it's timed, like 90-day access. So do keep that in mind. However, the other thing we're giving away is going to be a CompTIA voucher. This voucher is international. It works in every country in the world. If you're in a country that actually gives CompTIA exams, it will work there. And this is a great deal. This is a wonderful thing that CompTIA has done. This is through CompTIA, and we thank them very, very much. So, good stuff today. So, we start here at 2 o'clock, and we run till about 3 o'clock or until the questions run out. Since this is a topic today, we've got about 20 minutes of presentation is my best guess on this. And then, we've got that plus the 2 giveaways, so it tends to be a pretty busy day. Mike, the library snob. Sorry, I just happened to see one that looked funny. Finally able to join. Welcome aboard, Mike, the library snob. Let's take a quick peek. Anytime you see me turning my head to this direction, it's because I'm checking out the chat window, and I want to make sure that I am answering questions that folks might have. So let's go ahead. Jose Braden here, man. Alan's here, Tolowit. This is like Andrew Hutz. What is this, Old Home Week? Andre's here, of course. Mohammed is here. Good to see you again. Wilson Kanzawa. Good to see you again, Wilson. Feels like it's been a while since I've seen you. T.D. Washington, same with you, man. I don't think you've been here this week. Oh, good Lord, Dr. Quinn. That's like Did y'all call each other or something? Avocados here? Good Lord. This is craziness. Craziness. Rohit Singh. I'm looking for new faces here. JM's here. Great. David Mueller. Super Omar. Catherine. Hello, Catherine. Master 19. There's a name. Okay, well, we got a pretty good list of folks. Good to see a lot of the old folks here. Good to see a lot of the new folks as well. So welcome aboard. Be aware, guys, that we're going to be talking about routing concepts today. We will probably be doing routing for 2 more AMAs. Now, just because I'm talking about routing, that doesn't mean you feel free to ask any question you want. It stands for Ask Mike Anything. So I want you to be completely comfortable. Even if I'm talking about routing, don't be afraid to ask other questions if they're important. And we'll be more than glad to answer those for you. So, Super Omar 64. Hey, long time no see. It's been a while, Super Omar. My birthday was yesterday, and I got a DJ controller to GJ with. Nice. All the toys. Brandon Tallman. How's it going, Mike? New here, but finish your course on the Network Plus. Excellent, Brandon. Rohit Singh. What's the difference between default VLAN and native VLAN? Nothing. Same thing. Okay, I guess I need to be really, really careful here. They shouldn't be anything but the same thing. The default VLAN is whatever VLAN is being used by default on that device, which 99.99% of the time is the native VLAN. The native VLAN is the VLAN that we're going to put you to if you don't assign yourself to a VLAN, ergo default. Sahil Basia. Hello, Mike. Hello. Exodus. Thank you for your Udemy courses, Mike. Presented fabulously and were way beneficial. Way good, man. All right. Darwin Manichaeus. I have a question. Darwin, just start typing it. Peter Hunt got his wisdom teeth removed. So in order for me to get unhooked from nicotine, I've been sucking on nicotine lozenges like forever. So to get unhooked on them, I started sucking on Altoids for a few months. And guys, I'm going to tell you, if you want to trash your teeth quickly, start sucking on Altoids, especially if you park them like you would a tobacco dip. Oh man, I've had 2 root canals. I'm probably going to have another one. It's a mess. So I understand what a pain in the rear end. Norvik Bogosian. Hello, lovely Mike. I don't get called lovely very often, but thank you for that. JM, when using software as a service, who legally owns the data? The cloud provider, the customer? There's nothing within software as a service that instantly defines who owns the data. That doesn't exist. However, in most cases, the actual owner of the data is going to be the one who provides the software as a service. That can get very, very subtle. Saf Mo, hi Mike, what's the difference between a SAN and a NAS? Both of them are network storage devices. A network attack storage, or NAS, is by far the simpler of the two. NAS simply means you got a computer sitting somewhere with a bunch of shares on it. And you can access those network shares and do whatever you want. They're usually Linux machines that are running some form of Samba more often than not, but even that, there's some subtlety in there. SAN is a much more complicated way to store data. SAN is a block level storage where basically you have your computers where you work at. They might have a hard drive on them to boot from, but that would be about it. A SAN is going to be distinct from a NAS. And number one, a SAN is going to have a dedicated network only for the SAN. You got that? So and there's all these iSCSI and fiber channel and these kind of unique networking technologies that are only for SANs. However, Ethernet is not a bad way to do SANs either. So that's been changing a little bit. With a SAN, you don't have shares per se. You have some kind of SAN controller, and you decide through your controller what data you want to access. Like, for example, here in the United States, SANs are very, very popular for law enforcement. So if the guys with the in blue kick your door in and take your computer. They're going to do forensics on it. So what they do today is they'll take your computer, they'll pull the data off of it using what's known as an interrupt 13 device, and they'll take, which is basically a perfect bit-for-bit copy of your hard drive, and they'll put it on a SAN. And then that way they can then run their forensic tools on it. You can set up a NAS for $400 or $500 probably. The lowest price I've ever seen a real SAN would be $150,000 to start with. Darwin Maniquez, what do you think about someone getting IT at 39? You're young, but you're okay. 39 is young. Rohit Singh, how is native VLAN related to a trunk port? Other than both being VLAN technologies, they're not related. A native VLAN is like we already discussed, a trunking port is a way, like if you have two switches and you got VLAN 3 on one of these switches and VLAN 3 on the other, you set up trunk ports and you just plug in a piece of cable between the two switches. A trunk port basically says, I will let any VLAN talk on this. JM, can you explain what a gateway of last resort is? Actually, JM, gateway of last resort, I've never even heard the term. I mean, we are talking about routing today, so gateways are going to be coming in today. Oh, come on, gateway of last resort. I mean, this is probably default gateway. Oh. Okay, a gateway of last resort is a Cisco term for, you know what? Hang on to that because we're actually going to be talking about that today. Literally, JM, we will address your question today. So bear with me. Let me see if I can get a few more of these knocked out. Lots of questions today, which is always good. Reaper01, do I still have the sock puppets? No, no more sock puppets, man. Looking for questions. Reaper01, do I have to take the Net Plus to go into cybersecurity? No, you don't have to take anything. Just go apply for a job. Now, there's the real question, right? So what you should have said to me, Reaper, is, Mike, what certifications do I need to get into IT security? Again, the answer is 0. But if you have no experience, how do you get the few very desirable entry-level jobs in cybersecurity? And you do that primarily by providing some types of certification. Network Plus is an excellent one. Security Plus is an excellent one. Looks like, where did you say your goal was going to be? Pen Test Plus. So you guys got to know there's a lot more to cybersecurity than just pen testing. Audit, forensics, governance. There's all kinds of stuff out there. If you think IT security is just pen testing, you're only hitting a small part of the importance of what IT security is. Kieran Ferguson. Hey, Mike, recently got my A+, about to do Network Plus. I am changing careers, but all jobs seem to be looking for guys with experience. That's not true. Why do people keep saying that? If you look for jobs for people who are looking for experience, yeah, then they are. There's crap loads of entry-level jobs out there. Last year, me and my buddy, Jessica Dickerson, did we did more than one episode on how to get entry-level IT security jobs. Man, Kieran, I'm not mad at you at all. Please don't ever think that my getting vehement has anything to do with you personally. Of course it does not. I don't know you anyway. The challenge we have with jobs is I find a huge percentage of people, they're not willing to move. They're not willing to work shift work. They don't have a car or they don't want to learn how to drive. You know, there's lots of things out there. So, and again, I don't know you, and so don't think I'm picking on you, because I'm not. I worry when I hear people say stuff like all the jobs. Well, there's tons of jobs out there. You know, for an entry-level IT job, if you're not putting out 100 resumes, you're probably not even going to get a job. 200 resumes is pretty standard today. What is your sign in the background? Are you planning a meetup? No, that sign's 15 years old. Whenever I used to do presentations and stuff, I'd keep the signs. Darwin Marquine, can you give a short answer to the difference between IPv4 and IPv6? Yeah, it'll be a short answer. It's not going to be good. IPv4 has 128-bit addressability, whereas IPv6 has 128-bit addressability. IPv4 only has 32. IPv6 has a ton of things that make it far better than IPv4. My audio slow today? Check one. Oh, my audio. Whoops. Guys, I pulled on my keyboard and literally turned down the mic at the same time. Check one. Check one. I think that's a little bit better. Sorry about that. No, literally, I pulled the keyboard and it, yeah, what a mess. Sorry about that. I don't like the term "my bad." Brandon Tallman, do you have experience with digital forensics? A little bit. I am interested. I read that some jobs focus on having to sift through some pretty awful. Yes, Brandon, I'll tell you right now that I worked with the Federal Bureau of Investigation here in the United States. This is years ago. And they had a project, which may or may not even still be in existence, called Innocent Images. Now, keep in mind, they shielded. I have like this much clearance, okay? So the Bureau was very good about, because I'm just a civilian, keeping me away. But you'd hear some stories over beers about some of the experiences these agents had, and I don't know how they did it. I'd really hats off to the FBI. They took on some pretty hard work in terms of forensics on kiddie porn. But you're absolutely right, and that is a challenge. But I will also tell you this, is that if you live like here in the United States for sure, if you live anywhere near a major city, the FBI hires a lot of civilians in these regional computer forensics laboratories, RCFL. Contact FBI, FBI.gov. They got jobs just like everybody else, and see what's happening. It's not a bad way to get into the business quick. Andre, IRS. Yeah, I got an IRS email today. Not an email, a letter. Yeah, I don't even... Scary stuff. Yeah, I'm wearing a hat because I've got another hair don't day. All right, it's already 2:20, guys. We're going to have to jump in here pretty soon. Esteban, Mike, are you going deep into VLAN on this routing series? I'm not going into VLAN at all. Esteban, VLAN and routing are different animals, unless you want to talk about inter-VLAN routing, which certainly is a thing. I was not planning to do any of that. But Esteban, if you have questions, I'm always glad to answer them for you. All right. Yeah, sorry guys, I literally turned the sound almost all the way down. Esky, I'm a 33-year-old mother of two and a cybersecurity major student at a college with no IT experience. I hope I'm not too late to join this. You're not too late at all, Esky. Welcome aboard. Honestly, to be a gal in today's IT world is a benefit. Women are paid more across the board. In the IT world, if you can find in big businesses, it's different. But in general, people will pay a premium to have a female just so we have them. 40 years ago, we were complaining about not enough gals in the business. I've watched hundreds of millions of dollars be used to try to get more gals in the business. And I guess I've discovered is that if you give people real choices to really do what they want, not a lot of gals become nerds. So welcome, Esky. Love having you aboard. There you go. Norvik, good to see you again, Norvik. in Udemy, when you were teaching about class A, B, C, and some were showing X and some 0, is that... Norvik, I don't understand your question. I'm sorry. I should have read it quietly to myself first. Rohit, if I want to learn cryptography, is it mandatory I need to be really good at mathematics? No, but it wouldn't hurt to be a little bit good at binary and hexadecimal mathematics. You're not going to have to be doing Laplace transforms or, linear algebra differential equation stuff. But there's a little bit of math, yeah. Not much. All right, let's dive in. What I'd like to do first, guys, is we're going to pick up where we left off on Monday. We hadn't really started routing. We did a couple of the routing basics, and that's all good, but I want to dive in a little bit deeper. And really what we're going to do is make sure that you guys understand what is routing? What do we do it for? And we're going to get into, we will start on static routing today, but we're going to have to do more later. So let me go ahead and dive into this while the going's good. So here we go. Did that come on? Survey says... Oh, and by the way, folks, when I tell you guys that you're my guinea pigs for new training methodology, I'm not kidding. I have run through this PowerPoint presentation once to make sure there's no horrific typos, which probably means I still missed a few. But do understand that the price you pay for all this free instruction is I get to experiment on you a little bit. Okay, here we go. Let's dive into routing. All right, so before we get into routing, I want to talk about a local area network for a minute. So what you see here in front of you guys, in the middle is a switch, just a regular old switch, and I've got four devices on here. Let me get them wired up here. Okay, so I've got all these devices wired up, and what I have now created is a local area network. Fair enough, right? So I've got a couple of desktops, I've got an IoT device on here, I've even got a WAP. So the thing is though, each one of these devices is going to have an IP address. Now, please look at these IP addresses closely. Do you notice that all the IP addresses, the first 3 octets are the same, only the last one is different? Okay, that's because I've set up a network ID for this little network of 10.11.12, and we say .0, and everybody, it's going to use a 255.255.255.0 subnet. I'm going to sit here for a minute and make sure you jive on what I just said. I'm going to try to bring my chat window up, but I can't guarantee. I'll do what I can here. All right. Okie dokie. So we're okay with this part, right? Okay, great. All right. So what I want to do though is we're going to be drawing a lot of rowdy stuff today. So what I'd like to do is not have to keep drawing all this out. What I'd like to do instead is just make a circle around it. You see I'm doing like this rounded rectangle? I've kind of everything's faded out. In fact, I don't even want to talk about what's inside here. I just want to do something like this. Look at this box. This box defines a network of 10.11.12.0 WAC 24. That little box, if you don't understand what that is, we can't talk about routing. Inside that box is a broadcast domain. That means that if anybody else, I want to say it the right way, if I send out a broadcast, anyone else can hear it, just like we talked about on Monday. So the broadcast domain, a broadcast domain is a local area network, same animal, okay? Now you notice in that drawing what I didn't have any routers or anything like that, okay? We're going to add them. That's why we're doing all this. What's important to me is that you stay comfortable with this nomenclature so that as we talk about it more, it doesn't confuse you too much. So now that we know what this little graphic is, because we're going to use it a lot from here going forward. So what does a router do? I mean, we got these LANs, okay, and Mike's drawn a rounded rectangle with a number on it, so this is some kind of shorthand way to talk about LANs. So what does a router do? Well, let's talk about that. So here I've got 3 different broadcast domains, okay? And in one of them, I got a bunch of computers as 10.11.12 with a WAC 24. Remember, WAC 24 is 255.255.255.0. You guys scare me sometimes. I've got another network with a bunch of computers in it with a 192.168.1. And then I've got another network with a bunch of computers that start with 14.17, but it's a WAC24. It's 255.255.0.0. So basically, what I've got here are three different networks. They are not connected to each other in any way. The internet doesn't exist, people, okay? So we've got these three basic networks. Inside these networks are computers and printers and, I don't know, web servers and all kinds of other stuff. And I would like to be able to access these other LANs from different lands, from land to land. So that's what this is all about here, folks. So what we're going to be doing is we'll interconnect with this little magic device called a router, and we somehow magically make these interconnections to allow everybody to talk to each other. So if there's two things you want to walk away with today are these 2 points. A router is a device that filters and forwards packets based on IP addresses. And then a router is a device that filters and forwards based on IP addresses. You ready? Let's have our first competition right now. You guys ready? Here comes the first competition. Ready? First competition. Here we go. Now, guys, especially you new folks, in order to compete, all I need is the first person who answers the question the way I want wins. This is not a fair competition. I try to make it fair, but things get unfair. Guys, I need everybody ready. We are competing for 90-day access to the practice questions of your choice. Is everybody ready? Everybody's ready. Okay. I'm not putting up a multiple choice question. I'm going to ask a question. And the first person who answers this question to my satisfaction wins the 90-day access to practice questions. You guys ready? Here's the question. What type of device filters and forwards data based on a MAC address? What type of device filters and forwards data based on a MAC address? Took a while, but now we got some winners showing up. All you guys have said routers. That's so funny. What do routers? This is not part of the competition. Routers filter and forward based on IP addresses. But in order to filter and forward by MAC address, we use a switch. And I have a very obvious one here. Saf Mopass, thank you. It looks like Janice Sanders is the winner. Janice Sanders, congratulations. Janice, you have just won 90-day access to any of my many, many, many different practice questions that are available on TotalSem.com. So congratulations to you, Janice. Now, Janice, in order to claim your prize, you've got to jump through a couple of hoops. Number one, Janice, you need to send an email to my buddy Dave Rush. That's DAVER at TotalSem.com. Now, Janice, I hope you're panicking and writing this down, but we also will put it in the chat window. Janice, you need to put 3 things in that email. Number one, we need your YouTube name. So what did I see here before? Janice Sanders. I need Janice Sanders in the body of the email, okay? Don't ask me what to, I don't care what you put in the title, subject. Put your email address in the body of the email. But you'll sit there and go, but Mike, I've sent you an email. Just use that return address on the email. No, because people type in things wrong and we've had trouble. So now we all have to type the email address in the body of your email. And then third, Janice, of course, let us know which practice exam you want. So congratulations to you. Janice, let's make sure the onus is on you to get that email sent out. And Dave is a great guy on this. He does a great job, and he'll get it to you quickly. If you're not sure what product you're looking for, head over to our website, www.totalsem.com. And go over to our merchant area. You'll see all the many, many practice questions we have. And Janice, yours, feel free to take the one you'd like. All right. I got you on a good one. All right. Shall we return to our presentation? Let us do that. Okay, so a router is a device that filters and forwards packets based on IP addresses, or layer 3 if you're an OSI nut like I am. And then number 2, routers interconnect LANs. If you want a wide area network, folks, you have to start with local area networks. You cannot have a wide area network unless you have 2 local area networks and then hook them together with a router. And then technically you have a wide area network. Well, Mike, I thought the internet was a wide area network. Yeah, I didn't say you had to stop with just 2 LANs and 1 router. You can keep adding all you want. Come on, people. What is the internet? The internet is a whole ton of local area networks that are interconnected with routers. That's it. I'm done talking. All right. Anyway, back into this. I have to have the mouse in a very certain place or the thing doesn't move forward. Please move forward. Okay, there you go. Okay, so here's one local area network. And now here's another local area network. So here's how you connect 2 local area networks with a router. You guys ready? Watch in the middle. First, get a router. Okay. So I have a router, and then you just interconnect the router to the switches. Ta-da! That is how you make a wide area network. Okay, so let's take a look at a typical router, all right? Now you look at this router. First off, going from left to right. On the far left, these are console and USB connections. These are only used for configuration of the router. And most of the time, once a router is configured, these are not used at all. More importantly is, you see I've got some Ethernet, so that's gigabit Ethernet there. So that's 2 ports there, but I got 2 more ports for fiber. And if I need even more ports, I've got these unscrewable connectors that I can put all kinds of different stuff into. The problem you have is that probably the only router you've ever actually worked on in your life, at least for a certain percentage of you learners, is a home router or a Soho router. Those are great devices. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them, but you will get a little confused if that's the only thing you use in your mind to understand what a router is. The big problem is home routers usually only have 2 connections. There's one connection that connects down to your local area network and your computers and your switchers. A lot of you don't even have computers, don't even have switches. You just use a switch that's built into your router or your wireless access point. Oh, wait a minute. A lot of these home routers even have a wireless access point built into them, don't they? So, but then you'll have what's called a LAN connection and a WAN connection. So you only have 2 router connections. Now that router would work just fine in the example I just showed you guys where we only had 2 local area networks. But what if you want to connect 3 or 4? Well, Mike, why would anybody want to do that? Because literally everybody else on earth except for us end users use more advanced routers. Everybody does. All right. So with that attitude in mind, let's go back. All right, so that's a typical router. Let's do this again, except this time let's take a look at a typical home router. Now, if we take a look at this guy, first of all, there's a console connection. That's not super common on home routers, but we do see them from time to time. Next, in red, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 ports in red. These are LAN ports. And then 1 in blue, which is the WAN port. Now, this doesn't make much sense unless you do something like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redraw this home router, but show you what it really looks like electronically. So you'll see right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 regular red ports, okay? Remember, the green is a console port that's only used during configuration, never touch again, and then there's a WAN port. So let me show you what's really happening here. What you have here is this is up here, we've got a 6-port switch. But Mike, I didn't see 6 ports. Yeah, I know. Watch what's about to happen. Here's a console port, all right? And so all 3 of these devices are built in. I've got a 6-port switch, I've got a 2-port router, and I got a wireless access point. But here's what it really looks like electronically. There's the console port. Here are the 4 ports that you saw in the photograph. But Mike, you said there's 6. What happens here is I've got a direct connection from the router and a direct connection from the wireless access point. Those are dotted lines, folks, because they're all built in the same plastic box. These other 2 ports aren't actually visible from the outside world. They're just there. All right. All right, so let's watch some routing in action now. Okay, number one, I'm going to use this router as an example. This is a 3-port router, okay? This is not a switch, folks. It will not do switch. Well, I guess it will do switching of layer 3 traffic if you were going to be really technical. Okay, and but this is a 3-port switch. I want to use a 3-port, I said switch, this is a 3-port router. I want to use a 3-port router for this demonstration, mainly because you guys are also hooked on 2-port routers that you have at home, that the idea of having 3 is like, you know, mind-blowing. And it shouldn't be. All right, let's get back in here. All right. So I've got my 3-port router. And on a router, we usually name each one of the ports. So this is a fairly common name. You'll see things like ETH0 or ETH1, ETH2. Different manufacturers have different ways of naming their ports, but it's often a handy thing to do. I mean, come on, think about this. You've been in Windows, and you've worked on a Windows system that had probably maybe 2 network cards in it, and then you had a virtual machine in it, had a virtual machine link, and all this different stuff. And then you go into network and you lose track of who's who. That's all they're doing here, folks. Most routers, if not all routers, will label and name, both physically and electronically, each of their ports just to make your life a little bit easier so you can keep track of who's who. All right. Now, what I'm going to draw here is, this is that same 3-port router, but I'm going to change it up a little bit here. There's no reason to do this other than it helps instruction. So here's ETH1, he's plugged into something. ETH0's plugged into something, ETH1, ETH2. A lot of times on these routers, you'll sit there and it has, oh, I got a 3-port router, therefore I have to use all 3 ports. No, a lot of times I can sell you a 6-port router made by a company called Ubiquity, and I only use a few of the ports at a time. So don't be in a big panic just because it's like, oh my gosh. Okay, so now I'm thinking outside of the 2-port router world. Mike is now telling me that routers can have more than 2 ports. So 3, therefore I have to have 3 networks? Not necessarily. I do in this example, but you don't have to. All right. Okay, so now let's consider these 3 networks, okay? So in these 3 networks, what I'm going to do is I want to connect them to that one router. So let's review something called protocol data units, because I want to make sure you guys understand this before we start plugging in this router, okay? Number 1, so here's a little bit of data. So what I have here is some TCP data. This could be TCP data that's coming from a web client, web browser, or it could be data coming back from a web server, who knows? But it's TCP data. That's going to consist of data and then the destination port number and the source port number. So we call this a TCP segment. You have to know that term. TCP segment, UDP datagram, all of these terms, they are very much on the Network Plus. And in the Security Plus, they don't even quiz you on them. They just assume you know it. And they'll be saying things like, he's got a confused TCP, or something like that. Know these terms, like that. So it's a TCP segment. Next, as more software gets hold of this, so as the web browser, say, passes this through your computer, it's still locally your computer, but we're going to add stuff. We add the destination IP address and the source IP address. This is what we call an IP packet. So it's got the data and all that, but you cannot have an IP packet that does not have a destination and a source IP address, okay? So let's go ahead and stretch this out a little bit more, and this time I'm going to add destination and source MAC address, and this is an Ethernet frame. Make sure you know these terms. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to pick one packet between 2 computers, and we're going to route that sucker. Here we go. So here's my 3 networks, my three LANs, and there's one computer called 10.11.12.101 on that network up there, And I got another individual computer, 14.17.18.101, that is in this other local area network. And our goal here is we're literally just going to move one packet between the two. So, number one, the host makes the IP packet. Literally inside your computer, the IP packet is created. Second, we use ARP as needed to get to the local router. And then number three, forget about it, because the beauty of the TCP/IP protocol is that your data gets to where it needs to be. So let's do that. Here's my first computer. Remember, this is what my host, this is the originating computer. It's going to send the packet from here. So the first thing he's going to do is he's going to create the packet itself. So somebody at this point always says, well, Mike, how does he know what to put there? Well, maybe because he ran a DNS, so he knows where your www.google is, so he's got an IP address for that. And because he's a web browser, he knows what kind of port numbers to put in and what kind of data to send. These things don't happen in a vacuum. Computers don't arbitrarily and spontaneously start communicating unsolicited with other computers. Other stuff has to happen. But if you look carefully here, you'll see I've got a destination IP address of 14.17.18.101 and a source IP address of 10.11.12.101. Yeah, they both have 101 on the end. How can they both have 101 on the end? How can you and I have the number 8 as the last number of our telephone number? How can that happen? Don't make it hard, guys. All right. So the IP packet is now created. Hooray! The problem is that we don't have any Ethernet information. So hopefully you were listening on Monday and you know what's about to happen here. And what's going to take place is this computer. Here, I'll put the switch in. I'm putting this all together a little bit to make life a little bit easier. Remember, we need to get to another computer in another local area network. But in order to get that data where it needs to go, we are going to first talk to our upstream router. In this case, it's whatever that number was. I can look it back up again. Whatever ETH0 number is. That router is connected to my switch that my laptop or desk computer is connected to. Okay? So let's keep going. All right, let me put some wiring in here. All right, so there it is. There's ETH0. It's going to be that first one right there. So you can see 10.11.12.101, 10.11.12.1. We're all in the same network here together, people. Let's wire it up. And we still have those other connections to the outside world. No reason not to draw them in. Now, what you're looking at right here is called a routing table. Every device, every host on a TCP/IP network has a routing table. There's no exception to that. I know it says routing, so you think, well, that's just for routers. Well, it's not. Any TCP/IP host has a routing table built into it. If you can do this right now, please do it. I'm going to do this in Windows. You can do. I'm a little rusty. I can't remember. Somebody. I thought I saw Alex in here. Alex, can somebody type in the Linux command to display the built-in routing table? I've gone momentarily blank. Anyway, if otherwise you can just watch me if you'd like. Let me get this queued up. All right. Let's see what happens here. Make it a little bit bigger so folks can see it. Okay, so I'm going to type the command route print. This is a lot of different ways to get to do this, but this is the common one and one you need to know for Net Plus, and I'm pretty sure A Plus too. So we're going to type in route print. A lot of junk in here. Guys, there's a lot of stuff in my routing table, and that's because I have lots of network cards, lots of virtual machines, and all kinds of stuff. They all have their own in there, so I'm going to have to filter through this a little bit to get to the part that's interesting to you. Bear with me. All right, so the one I'm interested in is, I'm pretty sure it's called Interface 14. It's not critical for right now. All right. Anyway, here's the routing table, folks. Right here. This is it. In particular, do you see this first route? Do you see where it says, wrong key. I'm going to make this real big so you guys can see it. So the routing table is going to have the network destination. Where's it going to? What is the subnet mask of where it's going to? The gateway and some other stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the first one I want to talk about here is this network destination. See where it says 0.0.0.0.0? In a routing table, whenever you see the word, whenever you see 0.0.0.0, this also works in IPv6 too. None of this really changes. If you see all zeros, it means I don't care. Look, guys, you're asking your computer to get the data that you want out to the place where it's supposed to go. And you need a default route that says, look, if I don't specifically say something, if I don't care anything, just send it out through here. So with that, let's go ahead and look at what we're talking about here. All right. So I don't care what the IP address is. I don't care what the subnet mask is. Send it out through my router. Send it out to my router using this IP address. Got it? So this is the IP address of the Ethernet card that's built into my computer. I don't care what the IP address is. I don't care what the subnet mask is. Send it out through the router using this network card built into my system. So whenever you're looking at routing tables, you always start with, I don't care, and then you keep reading each line after that, and you say to yourself, unless, get the idea? All right. So let's make sure we're on the right network. I've got multiple networks running here, guys, so I want to keep this a little bit cleaner. Okay, so if I've got anything for the 10.0.2 network on a WAC 24, you see where it says on link? That means you are directly connected to this network. When you see on link, that means you are directly connected to it. And just send it out on this interface, which is going to be one of my other network cards that I have built into this. All right, let's keep going, but what I want to do here is let's use our example. All right, so when I take a look at this, we'll see I don't care what the IP address is, and I don't care what the subnet mask is. Send it out to this gateway right here, and then use my network card to send it out. That's all that means. Now, the next line means that this is my local network. So anything for 10.11.12.0, you don't even have to send it to the router. You're on that network. Just ARP it out and get it out there. Don't be afraid to take some time and go through a few routing tables. The routing table I'm using here is a bad example. It works beautifully. The problem is I have so many network cards in there, guys, that I'm filling you up with information. However, and I do believe this is one of the questions we had earlier, is those 4 zeros, that's your default gateway. When in doubt, it's going to send everything out through there, okay? In a small network that's not connected to the internet, you may not even have a default gateway. Pretty rare these days. Most everybody does. But be comfortable with that difference. Okay, here we go. So there's my routing table. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a quick ARP. Remember, at this point, guys, all we have is IP addresses. We don't know how to get the data to the router. In order to get the data to the router, we have to have an Ethernet frame, and that Ethernet frame has to have the right MAC addresses to get to the router. Does that make sense? Therefore, we ARP. Remember, we only ARP within the LAN. We only ARP within the LAN. In fact, if you try ARPing like to a faraway address, the entire computer world will laugh at you and start giving you weird gifts from Amazon or something. I don't know. Let's go. Okay, so we do a quick ARP, and then the router yells back that he has the MAC address. Keep in mind, folks, these all have MAC addresses, okay? These are just little network cards, just like the one that's in the back of your computer. They are configured with IP addresses and subnet masks and all kinds of stuff. It's all right in there. Okay, but the bottom line is now this computer knows the MAC address of the router. So this computer can now add, whoop, darn, I missed one. So we can now add the proper MAC addresses. Look, folks, I didn't write out entire MAC addresses because I didn't need to, but this will give you the idea. The bottom line is the Ethernet frame is complete, and it's time for this device to fire that out onto the LAN. So it does, and now it's going to come back in. In this case, there's the only thing on the LAN is this router and the one computer, let's say. So let's watch what happens as the packet comes in. So the Ethernet frame has now come into this particular system. The first thing that this system's going to do, it deletes all the MAC information. The third most important thing I want you to learn today is that when a layer 2 frame of any kind, look, we always talk about Ethernet, but guys, if you're doing cable, you've got DOCSIS, you've got all kinds of other types of technologies. Yes, Ethernet is super dominant right now, but back in my day, they weren't. Anyway, so keep that in mind. All right, so the bottom line is that your IP packet rarely changes. If you're running NAT or something, you might get some changes. But in general, your IP packet goes from router to router, and whatever the router is connected with. If it's connected with DOCSIS, then it has DOCSIS headers. If it's Ethernet, it's got Ethernet headers. If it's got InfiniBand, it's got InfiniBand headers. Well, you never heard of InfiniBand? Don't worry about it. Anyway, it's kind of interesting because your IP packet pretty much never changes as it's going through the internet, getting to your final destination. Oh, it's changing all the stuff. I mean, every time it gets into a different router, it's changing the layer 2 stuff, you know, changing different MAC addresses, whatever it might be. But the IP packet itself rarely changes. In fact, the only time commonly you're going to see an IP packet change is because you're using NAT, and it makes one change on your router, your home router right there, and it goes the rest of the way. No changes whatsoever. Okay, so we've dumped that because routers don't care where frames come from. Folks, get that in your head. There's the fourth most important thing. Routers don't care where frames come from. They only want to make sure to shoot them out to the right place. So here we go. Routers, just like any other device, is going to have a routing table. Now notice in this particular example, I left out the default route. Why no default route, Mike? Because I'm lazy. That's exactly why it's not there. Okay, but anyway, if you take a look really carefully here. So the network anything for the network 10.11.12.0, we are connected to it. This is the router is connected to it. See, it's connected to it right there. Just send it out on Ethernet 0. Anything for 192.168.1.0, send it out on Ethernet 1. Do you see it right there? That's which one he's connected to. And anything for the 14.17 on a WAC 16, send that out on Ethernet 2. And yes, all routers would have a default route built into them, but because we're just learning routing today, I skipped it. What would be kind of cool is that I'd probably have a 4-port router, and on the 4th port, that would be the one that's connected to my ISP, and I would put another router setting in that says, I don't care what the IP address is, I don't care what the subnet mask is, send it all out on Ethernet 4 or something like that. Okay, so there's my routing table. Now, if we look at this, that incoming packet needs to go to the 14.17 network. Right there, okay? I can go back and show you the destination IP address again, but I'm assuming you found that. And this is kind of interesting, folks, because all a router does is it looks at, there's a few other things you can add in here, but in general, the only thing a router does is it looks at the destination IP address, and based on that destination IP address, assuming there's something in the routing table, it goes ahead and sends it out on that other port. But it can't just send it out because it needs MAC information, right? So yeah, once it gets to the other port, it does an ARP, the whole shebang. That's it. That's all routing really is. Routing filters and forwards packets based on their IP address. Oh, and by the way, in order to forward it, it also needs to get layer 2 information. So yeah, these routers can ARP. All right, so I've spun the data around here. So here, it's all here. I didn't write anything in, but we get the idea. So what's going to happen, he's going to go and ARP on here to get the MAC information. He'll screw the MAC information in, and he is out of here. Oh my goodness, that took longer than I thought. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and stop for today because I want to give away a CompTIA voucher. When we get back, we're going to take what we just learned here. So on Monday, we're going to take what we just learned here and we're going to put it to use in a practical environment. And we'll go ahead and start configuring this because where does that router table come from? That's usually the big question. And the answer is the router table for most systems configures itself for basic connections. It's pretty easy to invent a router that if you plug into it, the router's going to sit there and go, oh, there's a DHCP server passing out 192.168.1s, or even he might be the DHCP server, and stuff like that. And the router can sit there and go, oh, I'm connected to the 192.168.1 network. And he'll just go ahead and write it in automatically. You don't do anything. It just happens. Cool, huh? All right. But that's the basic concept. When we get back on Monday, we'll be doing this a little bit more practically. I'm going to try to be getting a number of routers in here. I actually go through the pain and suffering of getting static router configuration set up right. It's a little bit of a pain, but it's actually kind of cool when it all works. And I'll probably have 2 or maybe even 3 routers. I haven't decided yet. And we'll actually go through that process. And then next Wednesday, we will start on automated routing, RIP, OSPF, BGP, all that fun stuff. Dynamic routing, there we go. All right. First of all, let me see if there's any critical questions in here. PF Sense, you guys. Andre prefers my blocks. All right. See, this is what scares me about you guys. So I'm reading your responses, and it's like, wait here. I'm about to ask another question. If you found this, Kevin, don't leave. We're about to give away a $400 voucher, dude. If you found what I just said worthwhile, say yes. Say it now, please. Come on, guys, start typing. If you found what I just said useful, say yes. In fact, don't be afraid to say no as well. Because what bothers me a lot of times, folks, is so many of you guys were talking some very, very high-end responses. So, okay, all right, good. I'm glad you like it. David Mohan's here. David Mohan. Hey, David, how's it going, man? And you passed. Congratulations to you, David. Well done, sir. What do I think you should do next? Get a job. Don't say get a job because I have one already. Get a better job. But again, congratulations, David. That's very exciting that you got your security plus knocked out, especially with a good score like that. David, I don't know what you want to do when you grow up, man. David, if I were you, I would be looking towards IT security. I would be looking maybe towards systems stuff. Linux certifications. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go. The problem is I can only show you so far where to go, but then I need to start knowing what you want to do so that I can give you better ideas. David, you got my email address. Tell me where your passions are and maybe I can help you out. Astaway Gannett, will CompTIA Plus exam expire this January? No. In fact, Astaway Gitnet, who told you that? Where do you even get information like this? Seriously. Astaway, again, I'm not picking on you. I don't even know you. But I'm always curious what sources people get for information like that. That's, it's going to come out in January. No, it's not going to end in January. You got plenty of time. Probably June, but nothing's official yet. So, all right, looking for any questions in here. Somebody did netstat minus R. Somali, that's it. That's the alternative for route print in sudo apt-get Linux Plus. So Exodus, oh my God, the CCNA dabbles in this stuff a lot. Well, it's because it's important stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's these are the basic pieces that we need to understand the more advanced stuff. Okay. All right. Let's give away. It is 3:01. We got to give away and then call it a day. What are we going to give away here? See how well you were paying attention. Trying to think of a router question. Okay, so before I come up with the question, a couple of rules on this giveaway we're about to do. Number one, I really prefer to give these to people who haven't won a lot. So if you've won a few things, I'm probably going to push you down on the list a little bit. That's not to say you can't win, especially somebody who's going for an A+. I understand where you might want another voucher, but my main goal is to give away these vouchers is to keep you new folks from showing up. Between David Mohan and Andre and these guys, they've won tons of stuff. So keep that in mind. The other thing is that, again, it's not going to be fair. I try to make it as fair as I can. Okay. Come on, Mikey. We can think of a good question. Oh, I got a good question. Oh, I got a good one. I've got a good one. When we're taking a look at packetized data, and we use terms like Ethernet frames and IP packets and TCP datagrams, there's a name for all of these. There's a 3-letter acronym that defines all of these different types of sizes and these encapsulated packets and frames and all this stuff. We use that term here today. What is that term? First person to tell me what the term is that defines these different things wins. Really? All right, we finally got a few winners in here. All right, Somali, you are the winner. However, okay, Somali, you're the winner. You want the voucher? Say yes or no, man. The answer is production data units, or PDUs. That's what I was looking for. PDUs, protocol data units, sorry. Okay, so Somali, congratulations to you. You are the winner of a CompTIA voucher, my friend. Now, in order to claim that voucher, Somali, you've got to jump through a few hoops here. Number one, you need to send an email to Dave Rush, that's Dave R, @TotalSim.com. Somali, in that email, you must add, 1, your YouTube name, 2, your email address, 3, your exact name is on previous CompTIA certifications. If you haven't taken any CompTIA certifications, then just give us your formal name. Well, Mike, what if I don't remember? Well, log into CompTIA and figure it out. Number 4, country where you reside. Not county, country. God, I need to fix that slide. The country where you reside. For you USA residents, be sure to also add your state. If you're in Canada, we don't care. Just say Canada. Make sure you mention the country where you will take the exam. Yep, I know here in the States that doesn't make much sense, but somebody like Andre who could head over to Luxembourg in a heartbeat, even though he lives in one country, could take it in a different place. And then last, Somali, make sure to add your exact exam number. So don't just say you're taking the A plus, for example. Say you're taking the A plus 220 1002, and then that will get you through. Well, cool. Well, guys, what a great little thing today. I had fun. It looks like we had some good questions. Yeah, Janice, we don't have that many people who show up. It's crazy how, in fact, it's a problem because no one else will tell anybody about my AMA because you don't want to add too many more people, right? It's too easy to get vouchers. I don't care. But the bottom line is that, Somali, congratulations to you. Don't forget this Friday is Dave Rush's Dave Rush AMA, DRAMA, drama. Dave also gives away vouchers, folks. He'll be giving away a voucher as well as practice questions. So Dave Rush concentrates on Raspberry Pis. Now look, you sit there, I don't want to know about a Raspberry Pi, or I don't want to know that much. I want to take my Net Plus. Trust me, Dave does an amazing job using Raspberry Pis as study tools to save you tons of money when you're studying for A+, Net Plus, Security Plus. Dave's an absolute treasure trove of great information on using Raspberry Pis as study tools. He's also got me using two of them. I wasn't really much of a Raspberry Pi fan until I got Dave, and now my home theater is a Raspberry Pi, and I've got something called a Raspberry Pi hole. That's right, I've got a Pi hole. Anyway, I would never set up a network without one anymore. Anyway, so do keep that in mind. That'll be right here on the Total Seminars channel here at YouTube and at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. So looking forward to having you there with Dave. All right, folks, that is all I've got for the day. Be sure by Monday to do some review of the basic routing concepts. In particular, make sure you're exposed to some routing tables. And I would love it if you had some questions. Oh, I should have put up, Oh, well. Have some questions ready for me come Monday, and then we will go into actually going through setting up static routes, and we may even start dynamic routing on Monday. We'll see how the day goes, depending on the questions. All right, man. Guys, I have, if I missed any questions, it's never a problem. Just ask them again later. Come back. Come win some more free stuff. It's not that hard. Anyway, I am out of here, and I will talk to you guys soon. And until then, this is your Uncle Mike saying bye-bye. Bye, kids.